Hi, cities. How are you doing? Welcome to Naya Sim. Thank you so much for the support. Hope you all are great. So I came across a video where white women, I think they are calling on themselves, saying that also black women are tired and they are on vacation. So I think they also decided to pick up from where black women already stopped and all that, saying that that them have always voted against their own interest, and at the same time do not listen to black women and black people in general. And they already know that all these years, black people have always been all out for everybody and nobody shows up for them. And also, she staged she also was talking about how white people, why they did what they did. And I am saying, if you are saying people, I need you all, if you are a minority group and you are talking about the election and you are only trying to hold white people responsible for not what I hope you hold yourself, you all hold yourselves too responsible, because if you all had come out the way black people came out, I think we will not be out here talking about all these stories. So I am seeing all of you, including Asians and Latinos. I am also seeing you as whitey. So I am grouping you all together. So also there is a woman, a black woman, who is also talking about how, black women cannot be criticized. Why is it that black people think that they are immune to criticism? And I am saying, where is she getting all that from? But you know what? Stay glued. Let's get into this video.
If your skin looks like mine and you are also disappointed with the results of the US election, then I need you to compassionately ask yourself how your apathy towards white supremacy, which is white privilege within itself, how that apathy has allowed for this election to play out the way it has. We have work to do. This is not the time to give up.
Welcome back to another episode of A White Woman Talks About Race Because Black Women Are Tired. This is an inter-community meaning that this is white woman to white woman. We are not asking for black women to do the work here. They've been doing it. They've done it. They need a break. We're letting them have their break, and we're taking everything we have learned from them and talking about it amongst ourselves. As I said in my last video, racism is a white issue, which means that we need to handle it within our communities, within ourselves, within our homes. There are a lot of people who are very new to any type of activism, any type of community work, and maybe you felt this kind of surge of energy in 2020. Maybe you felt this surge of energy for the first time as the results of the election rolled in. Either way, if this is not work that you do regularly, I want to share a couple of basic practices that will make it sustainable, so that this is not another blue square thing, so that your desire to wear the blue bracelet does not become just wearing the blue bracelet. I've made my feelings about the blue bracelet pretty clear, but what I maybe have not made clear is that I understand the desire for it. We are not good at building community, which can make moments like this feel incredibly isolating. The solution to that is not a quick fix in a black square or a blue bracelet or whatever the symbol of the moment is. We need to slow down, step away from that instant gratification, and think about how can we build a system that allows us to constantly feel in community and supported. That happens between us, and it needs to happen consistently. Which brings me to the very first lesson that I want to share, things that I've learned from Black women that I think we need to integrate into our change and into our community building. There is an account that I followed on Instagram for many years called the Nap Ministry, and the creator of that account also wrote a book. They use a phrase constantly, and it's the title of the book, Rest is Resistance. I'm not really sure that that's a phrase that we get to use. I've mostly heard it used by this account and others in the Black community, and I don't think that it's really ours to co-opt. Black women, I hope you're taking a nap, but if you are not and you want to chime in, please do. But the meaning behind that phrase is something that is also often not even really said explicitly in the disabled community. It's just assumed, because most disabled people cannot just keep going and going and going. When you are doing activism work and advocacy work, you cannot be constantly moving. You will burn yourself out so quick. That is why so many people that stepped into the BLM movement in 2020 and showed up to every protest and posted about it and were arguing with their relatives for 4 months about racism in policing and all of these issues. That is why so many people stopped before the end of 2020. If you act as though activism must be constant, ever-present, forward momentum, you will burn yourself out and you will not get anywhere. Change is not something that happens in a day. It is something that happens over generations, which means that you need to find the balance between creating change, creating community, fighting, standing up, stepping up, using your voice. You need to find the balance between that and taking a break. I saw this a lot, especially early this year, late last year, with what's going on in Gaza. I saw so much of people just constantly watching what was happening, constantly talking about it, and burning themselves out. That does not do anyone any good. You have to, in between those moments of trying so hard to create a world where the things you care about and the people you care about are safe to exist. In between those moments, you have to take a moment to rest. You have to take a moment to find joy. You have to have laughter. That is what we are often missing in our work. That is also where I think shame slows us down. If we are focused on the shame of what we haven't done, or what we've done in the past, or what our ancestors have done, if we're focused on that shame, it burns us out entirely. Shame does not change the world. Shame stops us in our tracks. And this does not mean, oh, you've done enough, sit this one out. What it does mean is that you will never do enough. You will never do enough. None of us will ever do enough, because the change we are looking for likely will not happen in our lifetime. We will never do enough, which means we need to take care of ourselves now so that we can keep doing what we're able. That's lesson 1. We'll keep building. Welcome back to another episode of A White Woman Talks About Race Because Black Women Are Tired. The comment reads, I think it would be cool if we heard this from them instead of a white woman speaking for them. And I agree. I wish we were hearing this from them, but we're not listening. And since we're not listening, you're stuck listening to me. Black women have spent years and decades and lives and centuries trying to educate us, trying to fight for us, the collective us, and we have not been listening to them. As a white woman, if I am ever caught speaking over Black women, I hope you will call me out and call me out swiftly. However, I think that there is a difference between speaking over Black women versus expecting Black women to continue to do the labor of educating us when they have been saying the same thing for decades and we haven't been listening. It is time for us to stop relying on their labor and to bring the conversation back home, to start having it amongst ourselves, to start having it within our community, and to start having it within ourselves. Because if we pay attention to what Black women have been saying, then we would recognize that blue bracelets are the same as we understand the assignment. They're the same as putting a black square on Instagram. If we've been listening to Black women, then we don't need them to step in and tell us that we're doing the same damn thing. And again, we should never speak over Black women on Black issues, but as white women, we need to be talking about white issues. And racism is a white issue. It is a white thing. We are the ones doing it. We are the ones perpetuating it. We need to start having these conversations in ways that aren't just shame circles that feel a lot like an AA meeting. We need to just be talking about it woman to woman, talking about it frankly, talking about it without immediately putting up walls of defense. Racism is a white issue. We cannot rely solely on Black women and Black educators to solve the issue of race. In fact, we can't rely on them at all because they're not the issue. We are. So we need to start relying on ourselves. We need to start taking the burden off of them to educate us and look at all of the educating that they've already done and start listening to it, start talking amongst each other about it. Because if we constantly wait for them to educate us and then we don't listen when they do, we're not moving anywhere. We're not helping anyone. We're not being the solidarity that we think we are. In the same way that we cannot solve issues of sexism and sexual assault until men start having conversations and holding each other accountable for the actions that they are doing, we cannot make any difference until we start holding each other accountable and calling others out before Black women have to get involved and call us out, right? A man does not have to wait for a woman to say, hey, that was a rape joke, that's inappropriate, for a man to step in and call it out. We understand that. So why do we think that the same is not true amongst ourselves when we're talking about race and how we inflict racism on Black women?
When I talk about white liberals who are punching down on non-Trump supporting global majority voters, punching down means to be critical of or to attack those who are worse off or in a less powerful situation. So it's not a phrase that's just about the energy of the discourse or the points that are being made. It's that white liberals, as members of 70% of the population of a nation that operates for their benefit, are the only people who are in a position to punch down. The United States voting system was literally set up to work for them. They have the numbers and they have the standing in society, which is to say the power to significantly impact the outcome of elections, and a number of means available to them to do so, whether that includes fixing their broken families and their broken communities so that a majority of white voters no longer continue to support fascism, or using their power to put pressure on the Democratic Party to espouse more progressive policies so that they can pick up more left-leaning voters. But this is to say that they have the power to carry the vote, so when they punch down on global majority communities for the way that we voted, they're saying that they expected us to do that carrying for them, because if their community voted the way that any of our communities voted, we would be celebrating a Harris victory right now. And I will talk about why I'm leaving Native Americans out of this in a moment. And the difference is, even though it may sound like they're making the same points as Black voters have consistently, not just this presidential election, but every election since they've been able to vote, used every ounce of what little power they have in the United States to carry not only their community, but everyone else in the support of democracy in the United States. So the message from white people is, you failed to carry us, but the message from Black people is, you failed to stand with us as we've carried you. Now, I've said it before and I'll say it again, that the reason why I'm leaving Native Americans out of this is because a lot has been made of the exit poll showing that 54% of the category other voted for Trump, and Native Americans would be included in the category of other. But the methodology and the sample size used cannot give us an accurate picture of how Native Americans voted. In fact, I'm doubtful that it can give us an accurate picture of how Asian Americans voted, but as an Asian American who knows Asian Americans, I'm willing to accept the 39% because it does more or less fall in the ballpark of the smell test for me. But of course, it's not for me to say the same for Native Americans, especially in light of the suppression that was being experienced on reservations.
Hi. I have a message for white women, particularly white women who would identify themselves as being liberal or progressive or leftist. I would assume that right now you're feeling angry, upset, overwhelmed at the current state of affairs politically, socially, and I'm right there with you. But I think it's important for us as white women And I mean that as like I'm generalizing. This is all going to be in general terms. I'm not talking about specific people. But as a demographic, I think that we need to really assess where we've been and where we want to go, because I think there's a lot of history that people are not aware of. In fact, I know there's a lot of history that people aren't aware of, and it's stuff that we need to talk about in order to do things differently moving forward. So white women don't have a great track record of standing in solidarity with other marginalized groups, particularly other marginalized groups of women. And maybe that comes as a surprise to you, maybe it doesn't, but if it does, it's because there's a very specific version of history that we're taught, and it's a version of history that really favors us and centers us. But the truth is that on many, many occasions, white women have said that they're in solidarity with non-white women. And then when the tide looks like it could turn for white women, we jump ship and align ourselves with patriarchal colonial systems. And that has really, really hurt all progress, actually, because we will be making strides as a collective group, as marginalized folks, as people who are being oppressed under a patriarchal system. And then patriarchy will compromise with white women to stop white women from rocking the boat. And then white women will stop rocking the boat because we are given some little thing that we have asked for that doesn't address the needs of the other people who we were standing in solidarity with. But because we got something for us, we're like, well, that's good enough for now. And we forget. Well, we don't forget. We decide that our lives are more important than the other people that that we were originally in solidarity with. And this has happened so many times, and it has really eroded the relationship between white women and non-white women, because non-white women feel like they can't trust us. And I understand that. That makes a lot of sense, because we have shown as a demographic, again, I'm not talking about anyone specifically, but as a group, as a collective, we have said we stand with you, we're right here with you, we're fighting for a future for all of us. And then when the powers that be come to white women and are like, you know what, we'll
Yesterday, I went to go speak to a community organizing class here in my state. It was a group of master's students, and we had a really interesting conversation about the election. And, you know, I live in New England. I live in Connecticut. It's a blue state. I think oftentimes people here have this superiority complex about there being more progressive or more evolved or more interested or committed to like diversity, equity, inclusion than maybe the rest of the country, or at least middle America. And there was a white woman in the class who was talking about how other white women continue to vote against their best interest. And I had to disrupt that a little bit, and it's because of this. I think we need to remove the idea that white women who vote for Trump, or white women in rural America, or white women who support kind of patriarchal, what we might call conservative or traditional norms or structures, we have to disrupt that narrative that they don't know what they're voting for. I think they do know what they're voting for. And I think they're voting for what their interests are. These are conservatives, they're Christians, they are women who believe men are head of household, should be in power. These are people who disagree with abortion, with queer and trans folks, with all sorts of things, right? And so I think we have to disrupt this idea that, oh, these people are just like undereducated and not evolved. I think they're highly educated. I think many of them are very aware of what they're voting for. And I think that is what they value. That's their interest. Because I feel like white folks, particularly in New England and more progressive spaces, have this idea that they could just like educate other white people to like be better. And it's like, I think that's just who they are. And they should just be who they are. Y'all need to accept that about your fellow people so we can actually get to the real work. I also want to add this, the superiority complex, this idea that white women in New England or white people in New England are more evolved and more progressive is actually immensely dangerous, because as a Black person who grew up in New England, and I think many other Black and brown folks who grew up in this area would tell you, white folks here are also not great. They're not great. But they have this narrative that they're more progressive. Oh, like we live in the town next to like the mostly Black town. So, you know, we let our kids go to school and play with you. So like we're good. But like we can never really address the insidious like white violence that exists in our state, because they have this complex that they are more progressive and evolved and they didn't vote for Trump. Also, like this election cycle, like almost half the state voted for Trump. Like almost half the votes went to Trump. It was a very close race. It was like 46% to 54% or whatever, however that maths. And so like, I really also need us to look more deeply into the information that we have available to us, because this narrative that like, oh, we're in a blue state, oh, we're all safe here, oh, we're all protected. Like, did you see those numbers? And also, do you see the ways in which y'all are like insidiously violent? It happens a lot when you start to bring class conversations into it. And then they want to talk about class, but then they don't see the intersections of class and race, and how they continue to perpetuate racialized violence through like class violence. Anywho, that's a whole nother thing, but y'all all terrible. I told you this was an unedited rant. I do want to say, I do believe that people have the capacity to change and to learn. I do think that there are people, we know that there have been people who have been like overt racists who came to understanding and have committed their lives to like anti-racism work. I know I was a person who like did not understand a lot about a lot of different identities as I was growing up, and I learned more and I got into community and, you know, became an advocate for a lot of other people and spaces. I do believe in people's capacity to change. I do want to say that. And I do believe that if anybody is going to try to shift the white psyche it is other white people. That's y'all job. You should do that. And I want to move away from this idea that people just don't know what they're doing. People just don't have an understanding, because I think that is a superiority frame that makes it really difficult to get anyone to engage with anything that you want them to understand. That's all. Okay, I'm done.
Black and brown people, including black women, are not immune from criticism just because they're black and brown and women. I should make this a song because y'all seem to still not get it. And I don't know how many times we have to say this. Actually not critiquing black and brown folks, BIPOC folk, women folk, because they're black and brown and BIPOC and women, and so you think that we shouldn't be critiquing them, is actually racist. It's actually problematic. It actually doesn't make room for black and brown people, women, BIPOC folk, whoever, LGBTQ folks, to be fucking better, especially those who are tools of white supremacist imperial violence, which Kamala Harris is. And so I will critique her. I will critique her, and I will critique Donald Trump. Here's the difference. Because Kamala Harris is a black South Asian woman, I actually expect more from her. I expect her to be better. I expect her to be more connected to community, more connected to the oppression that people are experiencing because of her lived experience and because of what she purports to be her knowledge of community. So I do critique her heavily because I actually expect more from my black and brown leaders, because I think we're brilliant and amazing. And I think we should be held to a little bit of a higher standard when it comes to serving marginalized and oppressed people. I expect Trump to be shit. He's a fucking white male billionaire. So I can critique him all day long, but like, that's what white male billionaires are. That's who they are. This is like one of the most exhausting, takes, because if you care about equity and justice, we are talking about high level meta systems that even black and brown people participate in and perpetuate, and in that way need to be critiqued. And I'm sorry, I didn't see Beyonce at the Trump rally. Like, they were door knocking in rural America. No Democrats came knocking on my door. They spent their money on Beyonce and Oprah. I can't not critique that. And if you don't like the critique, you can just keep scrolling.
Ever since Donald Trump got elected, I've noticed that white tea folks have been a little bit more bold in their racism lately. So I just want to make something really clear. If it was up to black folks, we probably wouldn't interact with you guys at all if we didn't have to. And I mean white tea people, period. We probably wouldn't interact with y'all, period. See, we don't have the luxury of being able to live our entire lives in these, small towns and echo chambers that reinforce our biases and all this other stuff. We don't have that luxury. We have to deal with white tea folks on a daily basis, whether we like it or not. And if the situation were reversed, we probably wouldn't want to deal with y'all. I'm not going to hold you. We probably wouldn't. Because I'm going to just be real with you, and I'm going to just take the gloves off. White tea folks are violent. And I mean incredibly violent. Mob mentality. I'm talking about overly crazed. Like, white tea men and women, rather than getting divorced, rather just unalive each other. The whole family. When they tired. When they bored, whole family, just for whatever reason, they just snap one day. Pour cyanide in the tea. Whole family gone. Then go start a whole nother family. Y'all love to say this 1350 thing. That black people are 13% of the population, but make up 50% of violent crime. But love to leave out that white tea men make up 31% of the population and make up 90% of child abuse and SA crimes towards children. Like, we just gonna leave that out, which is crazy. Let's not forget, you know what I'm saying, them using black babies as alligator bait. Let's not forget lynch parties. Look up a lynch party. Bunch of white tea folks just outside having a grill off while a corpse hangs from a tree. So I just want to make this incredibly clear. And it's been documented for a very long time throughout history. White tea folks are violent. And I mean insanely violent. And just to put the icing and the cherry on top of this fucked up cake, America a few weeks ago had a choice between a well-decorated prosecutor, and because she was a black woman, you guys degraded her and talked bad about her, her race, everything. And you overwhelmingly, white tea America, decided that they would much rather have a 34-time convicted felon and abuser over the black prosecutor. So take that and do it what you will. And have a nice fucking day.
This is all I got from this video, and I am going to start from the black woman who spoke about whitey women, believing in some certain things, and that anybody that says that they voted against their best interest probably is lying because they voted for what they believe in. Now, I really don't understand where her stand is because she is just everywhere and just jumping around. That is how I feel. But feel free to also drop your own opinion. Okay, she started by criticizing Kamala Harris over what, that she's expected to do more, especially for marginalized groups and all that. And I am going to ask, what is she supposed to do for a marginalized group when the opportunity, you all have not even given her the opportunity to do the job? Why she was, she is still the vice president of, United States. And she only served as the vice president. What more do you expect from her instead of, I didn't know how a lot of people focus so much on her when why they left their president behind. Because last I checked, you all have president, and she is just the acting vice president, which there is a limit to some certain things a vice president can do, right? She probably tried her best when it comes to calling off the whatever that was going on or what is going on in Gaza and all that. Because I think that is where most, should I say, brown people are looking for a way, are holding her. She's supposedly the G side and all that. Why are you people not transferring the aggression to your president? Because last I checked, I didn't see you people talking about your president. It kind of sucked. While she was talking, she talked about, whitey women, voting for what they believe in, which is they believe that a husband is the head and all that. Black women do not believe, or liberals do not believe that the husband is the head. Make this make sense, because I am trying to understand that they did not vote against their own interests, that they voted for the things that they feel what are the things that they feel like they wanted or they need? What are they? Because sometimes we tend to forget some certain things. See, I don't know how to say this. I am not trying to be I don't know, is it a monopoly? I'm gonna be trying to monopolize everybody to one group and all that. I think that is also one of the reasons why I am getting a lot of emails from people that probably have other opinion when it comes to politics and all that. See, I understand that, our views might not always be the same, but there is a particular time that we are expected people to come together and agree on some certain things. But this also shows that some people are also not honest, Some people, no matter how bad something is, some people will always be on the wrong side of history. That is something I have learned to understand. And I am going to work with that, whether you like it or not. Majority of you, and also Shane, that was saying that we, she was talking about how, writing failed and all that, black women have always, or black people in general, because when I say only black men, it means I am excluding black men. So I am saying black people in general. You also how they came out for the election and all that. And she is about to blame whitey women, right? Forgetting that majority of them are, sorry, not maybe minority of them, some of them also voted against their own interest. Because why I am I don't care how many people from Asian community or from Latino community voted for Kamala Harris. If they had their own best interest at heart, and other people's best interest at heart, there won't be maybe 40% or 30% voting for the other person. I expected everybody should show out like Black people did. But then you people did, nobody did that, right? And you all want to sit back and probably look for a way to see if I am blaming whitey women, men, and all that. I am also blaming all of you because you all played major role in whatever that happened. I am not excluding. Nobody is exempted. You all already know that. If like I think whitey people were all expected. I don't know if that is a. I mean, I see some of you asking, are you shocked? I don't think I am in shock or something. Disappointed, yes. And also, it happened that what Black people have been saying all these years, because I probably have been like 2 or 3 years, okay, 2 years plus into this content creating, especially when it comes to history. I think 2 or 3 years, if I am not mistaken, or 2 years plus, 2 or 3. Let's leave it at that, right? So it also showed that what Black women or Black people in general said has always been truth, because I did not experience the previous election. I did not talk about them, right? But now I am talking on this one and some previous things that has happened. And then nothing, I don't think there is anything that did not, like everything that they have said so far, it's all in sync, right? For those that are saying, I don't know, Black women, I love the fact that they are already resting, except on things that concerns Black community, because what we are looking for a way to do now is we are looking for a way to move forward. And that is something that I am expecting Black content creators to come up. What is the way forward for Black people? And also, I am working towards bringing Black Project 2025 here also. So, yeah, I think that's all I have to say. See you all in my next video. Bye for now.